A new axis is quietly forming across the globe, stretching from Moscow to Beijing, from Tehran to Pyongyang. And behind it all lies a dangerous ambition: to rewrite the global balance of power and challenge the dominance of the West. Welcome back to GeoFrontline, where we dive deep into the world's most volatile conflicts and strategic shifts. Today, we're dissecting the rising coalition between China, Russia, Iran, and North Korea. A network increasingly referred to by defense analysts as the axis of upheaval. It's not a formal alliance like NATO, but it's growing stronger, more coordinated, and more aggressive by the day. This isn't a Cold War revival, something more fluid, less ideological, more opportunistic. These nations don't share the same values or vision for the world. But they share something else: a deep resentment of U.S. leadership and the Western-led international order. And they're increasingly willing to act on that resentment through proxy wars, economic disruption, cyber warfare, and military provocations. Let's start in Eastern Europe. Russia's invasion of Ukraine in 2022 shocked the world. But more than 3 years later, the war is still grinding on. Despite crippling sanctions, battlefield losses, and diplomatic isolation, Western analysts expected the Russian war machine to slow. It did, but it didn't stop. Why? Because support came from the East. Beijing hasn't sent tanks, but it has sent tech, cash, and quiet political backing. Chinese companies are filling gaps left by Western firms. Iranian drones fill the skies over Kharkiv, and North Korean shells are being fired on the front lines. Putin may look cornered, but his war is propped up by a global network. Now zoom out to the Middle East. In April 2025, the Israeli-Iranian shadow war burst into the open, following a suspected Israeli strike on Iran's nuclear facilities. Tehran launched a wave of retaliatory attacks through its proxies: Hezbollah in Lebanon, militias in Syria and Iraq, and Houthi rebels in Yemen. It even threatened to close the Strait of Hormuz, a move that could choke off 20% of the world's oil supply. The U.S. responded quickly, deploying carrier strike groups, reinforcing Gulf allies, and launching limited retaliatory strikes. But the deeper problem is that Chinese energy deals shield it from sanctions. Russian technicians help upgrade its air defenses, and both countries veto UN Security Council resolutions that would isolate it. Meanwhile, in East Asia, tensions are boiling near Taiwan. China's naval incursions have grown more frequent, more aggressive. In July 2025, the PLA conducted a week-long exercise simulating a blockade of the island. Fighter jets breached Taiwan's ADIZ daily. Civilian shipping routes were obstructed. And Chinese state media declared the drills a warning to both Taipei and Washington. President Lai Ching-te called it a clear act of intimidation. The U.S. Navy responded with freedom of navigation patrols, sending 2 destroyers through the Taiwan Strait. Allies like Japan and Australia issued joint statements backing Taiwan, but Beijing didn't back down. On the contrary, it signaled a readiness to escalate, just short of actual war. Here's where it all connects. From Ukraine to Taiwan, from Israel to the Red Sea, these flashpoints are increasingly linked by the silent cooperation of this new axis. It's not a formal treaty. There's no shared ideology like in the old Soviet bloc. But it's strategic. When the West is distracted in one region, another member of the axis stirs trouble elsewhere. It's a divide-and-distract strategy, and it's working. Just look at how information warfare is being coordinated. Russian bots flood social media with anti-West propaganda. Chinese platforms censor content that supports Taiwan or criticizes Beijing. Iranian hackers target U.S. infrastructure with ransomware attacks. North Korea tests ICBMs and boasts of AI-enhanced missile targeting. And in each case, the others stay silent or offer quiet applause. But here's the part many overlook. The West isn't just watching, it's adapting. Under President Trump's second term, the U.S. has doubled down on global deterrence. defense spending has increased. NATO has welcomed Sweden and Ukraine as observer partners. Japan and South Korea are more militarized than at any point in the last 50 years. The AUKUS alliance between Australia, the UK, and the US is now testing advanced undersea drone fleets in the Indo-Pacific. And the Quad, comprising the US, India, Japan, and Australia, is holding joint air and naval drills within sight of the Taiwan Strait. In the Middle East, the Abraham Accords have expanded. Saudi Arabia and Israel are quietly cooperating on countering Iranian threats. And US bases in Qatar, Bahrain, and Djibouti are being reinforced with missile defense systems. The US Navy is also building a coalition task force to keep the Red Sea open, despite Houthi missile attacks. But perhaps the most important weapon in this new cold conflict isn't military, it's economic. Sanctions still hurt. Export bans, chip controls, and investment restrictions are hitting China's tech sector hard. Russia's economy has shrunk by over 18% since 2022. Iran's rial is near collapse. Even North Korea is feeling pressure as its dependence on Chinese aid deepens. The US and EU are now coordinating two close loopholes, targeting shell companies, illicit oil flows, and crypto laundering. So where does this leave us? We are entering a world where global power is no longer binary. It's not just the US versus China or NATO versus Russia. It's a contest of networks. On one side, the US and its allies, backed by decades of treaties, shared values, and military coordination. On the other, a growing axis of autocratic powers, united not by friendship, but by a shared desire to weaken the West. That's what makes this new axis of upheaval so dangerous. It's fluid, deniable, and adaptable. It's not bound by rules, it exists to break them. And it thrives in the gray zones: cyberspace, economic coercion, information warfare, proxy conflicts. But it's also fragile. Because beneath the surface, these regimes don't trust each other. China fears Russia's instability. Russia fears being China's junior partner. Iran wants to lead the Islamic world, but alienates the Arab Street. North Korea is unpredictable, even to its friends. The US and its allies still have the edge, economically, militarily, diplomatically. But it's not guaranteed. It must be defended proactively, strategically, and with unity. This is not yet a global war, but it is a global competition. And the stakes are nothing less than the future of international order. Thanks for watching GeoFrontline. If you found this breakdown helpful, hit like, subscribe, and let us know in the comments. Which flashpoint do you think will erupt next?